Tonight, somewhere in the world, someone is standing over a grave. They are crying. They are placing flowers on the ground. They are saying words out loud to a person who can no longer hear them, and if you ask them why they do this, they probably couldn't fully explain it. But the real answer is far stranger than grief. It reaches back further than language, further than civilization, further than anything you were taught in school. Death has always been the one problem your ancestors could not solve, and what they did with that problem shaped nearly everything about the way you live today. Go back 300,000 years. Your ancestors are not yet fully modern humans. They live in small bands, moving constantly, following animals across open plains. Life is loud and immediate, and then someone in the group stops breathing. What happens next? For a long time, scientists assumed the answer was nothing. Animals die and are left behind. Predators avoid the sick. Survival doesn't leave room for ceremony. That was the assumption. It was wrong. In 2015, paleoanthropologist Lee Berger and his team descended into a narrow, nearly unreachable cave system in South Africa called Rising Star. What they found there rewrote the timeline. Dozens of skeletal remains belonging to a species called Homo naledi, a creature with a brain roughly 1/3 the size of yours, had been deliberately carried into the deepest, darkest chamber of the cave. There was no evidence of predators, no signs of flood. The only explanation was intentional placement of the dead. Homo naledi, a species that could not write, could not farm, possibly could not speak in the way you do, was performing something that looked unmistakably like burial. Your brain just stalled on that. Good. Let it. Because what Berger's discovery forces you to reckon with is this: the impulse to do something with the dead did not begin with religion. It did not begin with culture. It began before your species even existed in its current form. It is older than everything you think makes humans special. But what exactly were ancient humans doing? The answer depends on where you look, and every answer is stranger than the last. In what is now Iraq, a Neanderthal named, posthumously, Shanidar I was found buried in a cave alongside what appeared to be flowers. Pollen samples taken from the soil in the 1960s by archaeologist Ralph Selecki suggested that wildflowers had been deliberately placed around the body. Grape hyacinths, groundsel, hollyhock. If accurate, this means a Neanderthal, a being you were likely taught to picture as brutish and primitive, was gathering flowers for the dead roughly 60,000 years ago. The debate over this finding has never fully settled. Some researchers argue the pollen was carried in by rodents. Others insist the pattern was deliberate, but the argument itself tells you something. The evidence is close enough to ceremony that scientists have spent decades arguing about it. That proximity alone means something. Your ancestors were not simply discarding the dead. They were thinking about them. In ancient China, in sites dating back over 10,000 years, archaeologists have found bodies buried with tools, with food, with red ochre powder painted across the bones. Red ochre, iron oxide ground into pigment, appears in burial sites across nearly every continent and every era of human prehistory. Nobody told these populations to use it. There was no shared language, no trade route carrying the idea from one group to another. And yet independently across Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia, ancient humans chose the color red to mark the dead. Anthropologist Chris Stringer, one of the world's leading experts on human origins, has spent decades documenting this pattern. His conclusion is careful but striking. The behavior is so widespread and so consistent that it likely reflects something deep in human cognition, not cultural transmission. Your brain reaches for red at the edge of death. It has always done this. You don't know why. Neither does anyone else, fully. But there is a theory, and it connects to something you still feel. Death destabilizes a group. When someone dies in a small band of 20 or 30 people, it isn't just a loss. It is a rupture. The hunter who knew the river crossing is gone. The woman who remembered where the roots grew in winter is gone. The eldest person, the one who had seen the drought before and survived it, is gone. That knowledge disappears with the body, and the people left behind are suddenly more vulnerable, more uncertain, more afraid. Ritual is a technology for managing that rupture. When you gather around a body, when you paint it, bury it, speak over it, place objects alongside it, you are doing something that your nervous system needs. You are creating a shared event. You are making the loss visible and communal rather than silent and individual. Psychologist Robert Kastenbaum, who spent decades studying grief and death across cultures, described ritual as the structure that allows grief to move. Without it, loss becomes static. It sits inside you without anywhere to go. With it, the group can absorb the death together and reorganize. Your ancestors did not understand this in clinical terms, but they felt it, and so they built the ceremony before they built the cities. Some of what they built is difficult to look at. In parts of ancient Tibet and among certain indigenous peoples of the Americas and parts of Southeast Asia, the dead were not buried. They were exposed, left on elevated platforms or open ground for birds and animals to consume.